Oh my god, it's been like a week or 2 weeks and I still haven't figured out an intro yet. Oh, and also, you could probably argue that I'm still wearing the same shirt, or the fact that I'm recording at the same day as part 1, but, so I'm not going to waste too much of your time. If you haven't seen part 1 of my top 20 childhood games, then do be sure to check it out in the link in the description box down below. And with that said, let's continue. As I've said before, I was a huge fan of Disney movies as a kid, and Monsters Inc. was another one of those movies I really enjoyed. So much in fact, that I also got the chance to play the video game based on the movie. This game is actually a prelude to before the movie begins, so that kinda makes Monsters University a pre-prelude? But anyway, while Monsters Inc. Scare Island is a pretty easy game and the graphics are outdated, there is some fun platforming and some cool level designs to look at. If you have any children who want to start playing video games, then this game is a good start. Good old Tekken, one of my favourite fighting game series of all time, and more than happy to play these games other than Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter combined. I was close to select Tekken 5, but when it comes to first experiences, I had to pick Tekken 4. I only played the demo of Tekken 4, and despite the demo being short, I had a really great time. Eventually, I got the full game for myself, and oh boy, this game is great. The fighting styles are awesome, the game looks nice, and I always love checking out the endings for each character. If you haven't got this game yet, I recommend doing so, along with the other Tekken games, and you won't be disappointed. Oh boy, Spider-Man. Every time I see him, it makes me want to have wet dreams about him. Oh god, that was a bit weird. What's next? Top 10 characters that makes you jizz in your pants? Actually, it's not that bad of an idea. I'm joking, it's a terrible idea. But what's not terrible is this game. Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro. After some great praise to Spider-Man 2000, the sequel was made, and while this is a pretty outdated game due to the camera and the repetitive combat, I still happen to enjoy this game at the end of the day. The game looks better compared to Spider-Man 2000, the animation was better, and this game also has its challenging moments in a good way. Not too difficult, but not too easy as well. Definitely worth a try, and just like to point out that if you haven't got Marvel Spider-Man yet, then holy shit, fucking get this game. Cause if I have wet dreams while thinking about Spider-Man, then I got a fucking orgasm while playing that game. Speaking of orgasms, oh wow, that was a great transition there, definitely living up to my reputation, is another video game series that means so much to me called Ratchet Clank. And I have to select Going Commando because it's the first game I've played in the trilogy, and I consider it to be the best game in the series. Back at school, I made a friend with someone who was also a die-hard Ratchet Clank fan, and we both would talk about them for hours and hours because the trilogy was really great back in the day. Going Commando fixed everything that made the first game wrong by being able to strafe, better creative weapons, and the awesome level designs. I rarely go back and start a new save file with older games, but Going Commando is one of those games I go back to once every year. And I get goosebumps every time I start up a new game. With the Reignited trilogy on its way to release date, we do have to remember the origins to the trilogy. When I think about Spyro, I personally think about Spyro 3: Year of the Dragon. It was the only Spyro game I've played in the Insomniac's trilogy, and while I'd suck at this game, I still enjoyed it and consider it as one of my childhood games. And plus, the soundtrack is fantastic and arguably one of the best good-looking games on a PlayStation 1 system. I just wish I had a time machine so I can go back to my younger self and get the other two Spyro games. Thankfully, I've played them in my adulthood, but that wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for Year of the Dragon. You know what I've just noticed? I've looked back into my hit and run review I did a while ago, and one of the comments about it was I accidentally pronounced the word with the Simpsons by saying the Simpsons. So, I'm just gonna keep saying it for now because it's just way too funny. When it comes to childhood games, The Simpsons Hit and Run doesn't need anything to be said. Just show someone the gameplay footage and they'll understand why this is your favorite childhood game. The TV show itself was red hot back in the day, and some of that momentum went into the video game industry. Hit and Run was the most successful Simpsons game because not only it plays great, but it feels great as well. It's nice to explore around and see all the little bits and pieces of references from the older episodes. Unlike The Simpsons Wrestling, The Simpsons Hit and Run is worth the time and money to get invested. Definitely would recommend it. Wrestling games is another one of my favorite genres in a video game. Sure, there has been some terrible games throughout the ages, but when you see something that's good, it's usually fucking great. And Smackdown Here Comes the Pain is one of those games, or if not, the best one. I first saw this game at my friend's house where we played the Elimination Chamber match, and even though I wasn't a fan of wrestling at the time, for some reason, I still wanted to get this game for myself. All because of the fun arcade style where you can beat your opponents up by using your devastating finisher and fighting around the arena, including the parking lot and the locker room. I was so glad I played this game as a kid, and from what I've heard from other people, they also consider this game as the best wrestling game ever to be released on console. Oh, thank fuck! We can finally talk about one of my most cherished video game series of all time. Crash motherfucking Bandicoot. I usually talk about this character a lot, and I kinda think half of my subscribers are Crash Bandicoot fans, so that's cool. It's awesome to see people share their hobbies with everyone, and now it's time for me to share with you one of my favorite video games of all time. Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back. Its fun platforming, nice soundtrack, and the lovable character made me fell in love with Crash Bandicoot right from the very start. While it's my very first video game I ever played, but it's not my favorite childhood game. So, let's continue. Okay, so I know I'm breaking the one game per franchise rule, but you just cannot have one without the other. And plus, Cortex Strikes Back is a platform game, while Crash Team Racing is a racing game, so it can get a free pass, right? Right? Well, who cares anyway, cause this is a really awesome kart racing game. Naughty Dog wanted to go out with a bang. Crash Boom Bane, fucking kill myself, and they absolutely nailed it and made it one of the best racing games I have ever come across. Not just because of my nostalgia feelings, but because it plays very well. It's a must grab for anyone who wants to build up a PS1 collection, or just a fan of Crash Bandicoot overall. And now this brings us to number 1. We've went on a roller coaster to check out some of my personal favorite childhood games I remember growing up. But there is one game that does scream out ultimate childhood pleasure. So before we check that game out, and yes, even though this is a top 20 video, we're still going to include a few honorable mentions. The real ones this time. Now, is it the best game of all time? No. A good game? Well, I like to think so. An average game? Possibly. But to me, this game right here just screams childhood. Every time I put the disc into the console, I get super excited and couldn't wait to relive those experiences once again. The movie itself is awesome and I do recommend seeing it. And the movie brought me to the video game called The Emperor's New Groove. It's a Disney platform game that every now and then breaks the fourth wall, and the game follows the movie from the night jungle till eventually making your way to Cusco's throne. The level designs are great, the soundtrack is orgasmic, and while the character itself can be pretty annoying, but if you want to talk to me about childhood games, then this to me is the one. And that was my top 10, or if you watched part 1, my top 20 childhood games. So now I've shared my games, now it's time for you to share yours. Comment down below on your personal favorite childhood games you remember growing up, and until next time, Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, share the video, and subscribe today. My name's Cheese and Crackers, telling you to keep calm and keep playing video games.